Hello and welcome. This is Colin Hung with HitMic, and we're sitting down with another 2021 Medici HitMic Award winner. Today, I am joined by Dr. Anton Bizzell, CEO of the Bizzell Group, winner of the 2021 award for Best Use of Media Relations. Doctor, welcome to the program.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a pleasure joining you today.
So first off, I have to say congratulations on winning the award. Media relations was a new award that was introduced in this year in 2021. What does winning this award mean to you and to your team?
Thanks again. I was really proud of this award because it recognizes all the hard work that my team really put in every week to provide substantive and informative content to the public. What this does is this award really adds value to the work that we do here at the Bizzell Group. And we are truly honored by this recognition. And again, I just want to thank you and thank Medici for the 2021 award for Best Use of Media Relations.
Well, the nomination and the work you've done was pretty awesome. But maybe for those that aren't familiar with your work and the Bizzell Group, maybe can you explain what you do and what the Bizzell Group offers?
Yes, sounds good. We are a strategy consulting and technology firm that pretty much designs innovative solutions to help build healthy, secure, and sustainable communities in our nation and around the world. And what we do, we try to leverage the combined experience of our diverse subject matter experts to really develop data-driven, research-informed answers to some of the world's most complex challenges. And what we like to say is that we ensure our clients achieve their vision and their goals. And at Bizzell, we provide and produce and pursue meaningful projects that align with our motto. And that is, our clients drive real-world change, and we accelerate it. Some of the things that we do, we are actually on the front lines, working in the opioid treatment programs. We're also tackling the Ebola epidemic in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, or just dealing with COVID-19. We also create ways in which our U.S. military members avoid the risk of suicide. And also we promote around the nation and around the world global health. And so that's what we do. So we've grown, our company has really grown from a staff of 2 in just one small office about 10 years ago to a thriving firm now with offices around many parts of the world.
Wow. It's just some small problems like Ebola and that's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing. Any insights that you could share around dealing with some, like, because these problems you're talking about, they're extremely complex. It's not just simply drop in a vaccine or anything. It's very complicated. How do you deal with that complexity, or how does your team deal with that?
Yeah, one of the things that we do is we go out, we find those folks that are subject matter experts. I like to have those folks that are around me that are smarter than me. And so when we put those folks around us, we put them on our projects to really look at some of the barriers that have existed and why those disease entities are in place. But we look at our clients, find out some of the areas that there are challenges, and to build innovative solutions to everything that they do. So we look at it from a data-driven, research-informed, and innovative solution standpoint.
Now, kind of moving a little bit over to some of the work that you did personally in 2020. I mean, you really put yourself out there and was a voice for 2 important causes. One being Black Lives Matter, that movement, and the addiction and mental health sort of realm. You did a lot of writing and a lot of commenting on that. Why were those 2 important to you, and why are those 2 areas important to healthcare in general?
I like to say it like this. Without health, there is no mental health. And there is no U.S. history without African-American history. For so long, we've had those systemic barriers that pretty much disproportionately impact mental health in the Black community. I've seen growing up in North Carolina how we would have those folks that sometimes we would put them off in what we used to call asylums or other places away from their families. But we have to look and see, how does mental health really impact the Black community today in today's present time? But growing up in rural North Carolina, I sort of like dreamed of really making a difference as a doctor. I used to live in this place, which was a predominantly Black community called James City, which is a suburb of New Bern, North Carolina. And it was more common to see my white schoolmates move on to careers in medicine. And growing up, I remember in the city, there were only 3 African-American physicians. And at one point, there was only one. And this was really to cover really almost like a 6-county area. So I saw at times where there were folks that looked like me, didn't even go to the doctor because they didn't have anyone to go to. Now, even as a Black American physician, I've witnessed firsthand the racial inequities in our health systems from the time I was in medical school to witnessing the health disparities on the streets in DC and across the US. This is one of the things that I've been talking about, especially when we saw like the Black Lives Matter and some of the other public health issues that we've come across and that are plaguing America. Racism has been declared a public health crisis in a number of jurisdictions and states all across this country. And it has been well documented that African Americans are more likely to experience or report persistent symptoms of emotional distress, sadness, fear, and anxiety due to ongoing biases in our country. I don't know about you, but there are times that I am fearful just driving down the streets. I've had my own incidences here in the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area, particularly in DC. That is predominantly African American when I was stopped by a white police officer because I had a fraternity tag around my license tag. And I too was fearful. If I felt that way, I'm sure there are many other Americans, especially Black Americans, that experience the same type of distress and fear. But as a Black business owner, I do believe that we as business owners, we must take the responsibilities to decrease the inequities and injustices for both our Black and our minority communities. And as part of like, I'm on the U.S. Chamber of Commerce's foundations group and board. And these are some of the things that we're looking at. How do we really close these the gaps in these 4 areas? And these areas are really education, employment, entrepreneurship, and criminal justice. So let's just break that down a little bit. When we think of education, we have to really address the achievement gap between white Americans and Black American students, especially starting at an early education or K through 12 and beyond. This is something I started out in Head Start really around the time Head Start was started. Mm-hmm. Without that foundation, I would not have gained some of the achievements that I did. And when we look at it, even today, our high school graduation rates in the US, even though it's at an all-time high, Black students are still around 10% lower than that of white students. So educational disparities such as this continues to fuel inequities in employment, income, and wealth creation. But let's just look at even some more, and then we could talk a little bit more. If we look at even employment, just in May, just a few months ago, the unemployment rate for white Americans was 5.1%, but 9.1% among Black Americans. And this gap has existed for over 40 years. So as you can imagine, employment is a critical factor in how families acquire income, and it plays a role in how families build generational wealth. So those are just 2 of the areas, employment and education, but we still have to address entrepreneurship and even criminal justice.
So, I mean, obviously you're very, very passionate about these topics and these areas, and it's great to see. I love it. Maybe for those that aren't as out there as you, and you know, did you find that you were worrying about any backlash for speaking out and doing this? Because I know that's sometimes what people fear is like, hey, if I speak out, I'm going to be, ostracized by my peers or looked at funny. I mean, what advice do you have for someone who might be fearing that in terms of not speaking out?
Yeah, we talked about fear earlier. Yes, I was afraid of really just putting myself out. In fact, I think it was one of the first articles that was put out by the Washington Business Journal. When talking about entrepreneurship, that was a good way to put it out there about how we've seen the inequities. And by talking about that, we were able to introduce some of the racial issues that we've seen plaguing America for many decades now. And I'll just say one of the best life changers for me was really when I started my business, and it sort of like created upward mobility, not just for myself, but also those who I mentor. But by putting this article out there, it just let us know that we're not in this alone. And what we need to do is really look at this from a business owner perspective. If that CEO jumps in and supports diversity, inclusion, and equity, we'll start to see where we will decrease this economic gap, especially around a wealth building and entrepreneurship amongst Black-owned firms. Because when you look at it, Black-owned firms, we only account for about 10% of the small businesses, but less than 1% of the total receipts. So when I stepped out there to discuss Black Lives Matter, yes, I was fearful. However, someone had to take the step. And I remember from the days of really, when we were like walking the streets and marching in the 60s, even though I wasn't born, there were some people who were on the front lines, but there were others who were behind there or in their homes still contributing. It takes everyone to really make a difference. And I've seen the change now in the US when we have more folks that are talking, and sometimes they may not always look like us, but there is a common good. And I believe that we can all really produce and to make this situation for not just Black Americans or Latinos or white Americans or American Indians, but for everyone that crosses our border in the United States.
What was the reaction like to some of these articles that you put out there for you personally and for the companies that you represent? You know, I know you didn't do it for the PR. I mean, that wasn't the real purpose of it, but did you see a difference in in terms of your business and in terms of just your career and your personal development?
To be honest, I did see it. Again, there's strength in numbers. And what I saw was this. I saw where there was so much support. In fact, I didn't see any negative support whatsoever. So I felt like the tides were changing or that the landscape had begun to change when it came to looking at the worth of African Americans really making a difference in society. And even in the business world, we're now seeing where others such as U.S. Chamber of Commerce, they're really looking at the inequities across many areas, across education, employment, entrepreneurship, and even the criminal justice system. Because again, we know that even when we look at just that, even in the United States, Black Americans are more than white Americans to be more likely to be arrested. And so these are some of the things that just by speaking out, we began to make inroads into really making a difference. I'm one of those that's out there as a CEO on how do we get those folks who are coming out of prisons into work. Or one of the things I'm very passionate about is those who are using substances. How can we ensure that they're out there finding those jobs, especially in those areas where there's more jobs than people that can fill them? We need to look at the barriers that we're placing on individuals to really make a difference in our society. We need everyone to come to the table to really make a difference and to get this economy really moving in the direction that we really know it can go.
So after you started to put out some of these articles and sort of infuse these articles with your passion, a lot of other media outlets started to reach out or approach you. Was there any sort of methodology that you used to decide whether or not you were going to contribute to certain publications or not? Or did you have a PR firm? Like, how did you handle all of that, all of those requests that started coming your way?
I'm gonna just say initially, especially when things started happening, I met internally with my communications team here at the Bizzell Group, and we began to really research what topics were of top concern in the addiction medicine field or the behavioral health field. And really, when we look at the mental health and the substance use disorder field, it was largely covered in 2020 due to the impact of COVID-19. In COVID-19, we saw where depression was going up. We saw, and we're still seeing increase in opioid overdose, but we saw a lot of those things that were happening because people were not able to socialize and to get out. And they were really in their homes and fearful for their lives. So requests for interviews on topics were in high demand. My team and I, we discussed the importance of really working with really some of the healthcare trade magazines like Psychology Today or WebMD, and just to get our message across, because we felt like someone had to get out there and to join the chorus of the other owners and business owners and folks in the field, healthcare field, to really get out there to talk about There were topics such as like prescription opiate overdose, which we continue to see, morphine overdose, harm reduction, or even just underage drinking or college age drinking, codeine dependence, or even just the mental health interventions that were useful during COVID-19. And so these articles and opportunities really came about from our team really building relationships with reporters from these publications. And as far as special prep, I'll just say my team, they conducted the research and they shared related articles and studies for me to review. And at our company, again, we believe in looking at those things that really work from a data-driven and research-informed solutions area. And so what really helped also was really my direct experience as a physician, especially as a family doc, but also one that specialized in addiction medicine. And so those are some of the things. And you asked me, a question, did we work with a group? And yes, we worked with one of the groups, which is on PNB Communications, that we've been working with since May of 2020, that they were also HITMC award winners as well for best use of social media. So they are a great and a knowledgeable team to work with. And it's been a pleasure really working with them since for now almost 13 months. And so we meet bi-weekly and we discuss the short and long-term goals and we prep for upcoming interviews and then we review and approve social media, calendar topics. So yes, we have worked with someone and that's how we do it here at the Bizzell Group.
I really like how you kind of purposely took on topics that were related to the work and the passion that you have, especially in the addiction and substance abuse areas, because it's directly related to some of the evidence-based stuff that you're doing and the fact that you're using evidence in your PR. I mean, that is not as common. It's common in healthcare, but it's not as common in general. And I think that was pretty refreshing to see you quoting a lot of these studies and you quoting a lot of these other statistics in the work that you were doing and the quotes that you were giving to people.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we really believe. Again, as a data-driven research informed and innovative solutions company, we have to trust the data. Now, going through medical school, we were taught there's some good data, there's some bad data, and you can manipulate data. And we've gone through some years where we were not trusting of the data. But we need to really begin to really do that. And then really, if we really focus on the data, we will see results. And we were able to see the results even from that. And I can say that we built on some of those relationships as a result of that foundation on a belief in research-informed decisions. We've had relationships with the Philadelphia Inquirer, again, Psychology Today, where I run an article, the Washington Business Journal, Verywell Health, U.S. Chamber of Commerce, or WebMD, or even Behavioral Health Executive. And so, again, as a physician, as a scientist, and a researcher, those things have really helped me as well as my company build that name recognition and the reputation of the Bizzell Group. And so when featured in, the award, the Medici Award, this also helps us as well, just like those publications, get our name in front of key industry leaders.
Now we're getting a little bit close to the end of our time here, but I do want to ask you a few questions in terms of advice you would give to others. And I'll start by asking this one. What advice as a African-American successful CEO of a business, what advice do you have to other business owners and other people who are maybe starting their business who are BIPOC or a member of another minority group? What advice would you give them in terms of running their business?
First, I'll say you must have a strategy and a plan. One of my favorite books is The 48 Laws of Power, and I talk about the 48 Laws of Power a lot because it's mind-changing. And Law 25 talks about something that says recreating yourself or recreate yourself. And I believe when you do that, you have to have that strategy and your plan because that's the one way that you will be able to raise your profile with the media. Second, you need to identify what it is that you want to communicate and who your audience will be. And then you also must have a dedicated or reputable PR consultant that is key if you really want to have that editorial coverage on a consistent basis. And again, when you're recreating yourself, you have to have a partner, and no man is an island to himself. And so therefore, I believe that's one of the best ways to do it and to maximize any press coverage by pretty much letting our customers or our clients know that our business is in the press. And then there's some other ways that we also believe, and that's using social media platforms. But again, I'll say just be patient. It takes time, and we have to build this together.
Now, that's my second question, really. You answered part of it there. What are some ways that after the articles have come out, after the coverage has happened, how do you leverage and what tips can you give to us on how to leverage some of that coverage months afterwards?
Yeah, again, I think the best thing to do is the use of social media. And a lot of people are understanding this now. Social media will get things out there, whether good or bad, pretty quickly. And now you're able to build up your digital footprint more so than what we have seen in the past. So I like to say sort of like this, again, I think results will take time, but if we are patient, we will see the difference. And that difference is really what we can make, not just for ourselves, but for others. And I like to, sort of like say, one of the quotes that I like to, really like quote sometimes is by Madam C.J. Walker, which was a great business owner and one of the first Black entrepreneurs. And she said, I had to make it on my own living and my own opportunity, but I made it. And she said, don't sit down and don't wait for the opportunities to come. You have to get up and you have to make them. And that's what we have to do as CEOs and owners of companies.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, Dr. Bizzell, thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed this conversation. It's very, very clear you're very passionate about these topics, which I absolutely love. And again, thank you for all the tips you shared today on the program.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. And it's been a pleasure working with, healthcare IT today, and as well as HITMC. And so looking forward to, continue to get the word out because it's going to take all of us to really make a difference and to change the world.
Awesome. This has been Colin Hung with Dr. Bizzell from the Bizzell Group. Thanks for listening.